This 1908 Sears catalog advertises all sorts of powders, lotions, creams, soaps, and even a scientific treatment for removing wrinkles, but not a single lip balm. Now, I have used and made a ton of lip balm in my life, and I've been obsessed with the Titanic and the Edwardian era forever, and all that got me wondering, what was lip balm like over 100 years ago, and did they even use a product we'd recognize as lip balm? Now, as fascinating as this old catalog is, finding a lip balm advertising here would not have been terribly educational. It's very heavy on the promises and quite light on ingredient lists. This hair tonic actually mentions some ingredients: lead and cayenne. How innovative. But surely the people of the Edwardian era weren't just blessed with lips impervious to chapping, so perhaps lip balm was more of a DIY sort of product back then. Now, many of the ingredients we use in lip balm today, like beeswax and olive oil, were also available 100 years ago. But did they use them, or did they use ingredients we now know are dangerous or even illegal? There's only one way to find out. Hey Siri, take me back to the Edwardian era.
Activating time travel. Okay, welcome to 1912. I hope you like your outfit.
I found what I was looking for in a cookbook that was first published several years before the Titanic set sail. This is the Dudley Book of Cookery and Household Recipes by Georgiana Ward, the Countess of Dudley. Most of this volume is focused on cooking and baking, but there is a small section at the back of housekeepers and toilet recipes, and it contains 10 skincare recipes, including a lip salve for chapped lips. With a recipe, I can make it and actually experience what Titanic-era lip balm was like, but doesn't use ingredients we can still get today. 1 ounce of oil of sweet almonds, 1/4 ounce of white wax, 1/2 ounce of spermaceti, 1 drop of cochineal, and a few drops of oil of roses. Melt the ingredients gradually and work well so as to make into a smooth, stiff cream. Run it into small pots for use. I recognize most of these ingredients, I think, but I'm definitely going to have to do some research and translating before I can actually try making this. The very first ingredient is easy enough. It's sweet almond oil, a relatively lightweight liquid oil pressed from almonds. This is still a really common ingredient in all sorts of skincare products today, including Burt's Bees' original tinned lip balm formula. Up next, some rather ambiguous white wax, which will be thickening the almond oil into a savvy sort of consistency. I initially thought this might be some sort of paraffin wax, which was first produced commercially in 1867, so it did exist in the early 1900s, but a bit of research showed me that it is just bleached white beeswax. Just like sweet almond oil, beeswax is still a really common ingredient in modern lip balms. Now, we're definitely going to have to substitute this next ingredient because it's actually illegal today. Spermaceti. Spermaceti is a white, waxy substance harvested from the head cavity of sperm whales. It was used for everything from cosmetics to candles to industrial lubricants 100 years ago, but thankfully it's been banned worldwide for decades now. 2 ingredients come up a lot when researching modern vegan spermaceti alternatives. The first is jojoba oil, which is lovely but very liquid, so I didn't think it would make a great substitution in this recipe, which is supposed to be a stiff cream once it's done. There's nowhere near enough beeswax for it to be the only thickener, so the spermaceti had to be thickening the salve too. The other suggested alternative is cetyl palmitate, the ester of cetyl alcohol and palmitic acid. Some sources say spermaceti is primarily comprised of cetyl palmitate, which would explain why it's a good substitute, but I found a really interesting publication from 1963 that shows it isn't. If you'd like to really get into the full nerdy details, please check out the free partner blog post linked below. It's full of quotes, all my sources, and a lot more information. Anyhow, I'm going to use cetyl palmitate for a vegan, whale-free, legal option. Cetyl palmitate can definitely be found in modern lip products. Nivea, Revlon, and Blistex all use it, but it is nowhere near as common as beeswax or other non-wax fatty thickeners like cetyl alcohol. These 3 ingredients make up the bulk of the lip salve, with just 2 ingredients remaining, both of which are measured in drops rather than ounces. A single drop of cochineal, carmine, colors the salve a lovely pale pink, but won't tint the lips. Carmine is a powder, so the droppable ingredient Georgiana is referring to is probably carmine mixed with some sort of a liquid solvent, possibly alcohol. I'm going to use carmine dispersed in castor oil, since that's what I have. And lastly, the most dangerous ingredient in this antique lip salve. This ingredient doesn't require much deciphering. It's rose essential oil, a lovely and obvious partner to red carmine in a lip salve, but it's also one that could be harmful to your health. If we assume a drop weighs 0.03 grams and a few drops is 3, then that means this lip salve contains approximately 0.18% rose oil. Over a century after this recipe was published, we now know that rose oil contains a chemical called methyl eugenol, which the US National Toxicology Program has classified as reasonably anticipated to be a human carcinogen. Because of this, the International Fragrance Association, or IFRA, has limited methyl eugenol in lip products to just 0.00042%. As rose oil typically contains 0.5 to 3.3% methyl eugenol, this dictates a maximum safe usage level of 0.01 to 0.08% rose oil in lip products. That's, at most, less than half of what Georgiana's recipe calls for. Now, I don't have rose essential oil because, in addition to being rather hard to use due to its really low usage rates, it's also bonkers expensive, easily clocking in at upwards of $100 a teaspoon. So I'm just going to use peppermint essential oil instead. Now, as with all of the recipes in this cookbook, the instructions are rather vague. Melt the ingredients gradually makes me think of a water bath, since the water keeps things from getting too hot too fast, so I'm going to do that. The instructions don't specify to add the essential oil after the mixture has been removed from the heat, but I'm going to do that. The instructions don't even actually say you're supposed to remove it from the heat, but that does seem like a pretty safe assumption. Work well sounds like I'm supposed to stir it a lot. I can definitely do that, but did you know that just how much you stir a salve like this actually matters quite a lot? That's because the longer you stir, the softer the final product will be. So I'm gonna pour the salve a couple times, each after a different amount of stirring, so we can compare the results. Georgiana calls for small pots for storage. From the illustrations in the old Sears catalog, it looks like tins and glass jars would have been common choices for a product like this. These frosted glass jars with silver lids are the closest thing I have. I bought these from New Directions years ago, and sadly they've since discontinued this size. Oops, I think I waited a bit too long to pour that last one. Smearin' stuff it is. Now that everything has set up, I can finally try it and see how it compares to modern lip balms. So I'm going to start with this one, the very first one that we poured into tubes. So this had the least amount of stirring. Quite firm, fairly creamy, not super rich, but I do like it. It goes on fairly thin, but still has a nice sort of substantialness to it. This is the first one that we poured into a jar. These are a lot more bubblegummy pink than I was expecting. Very firm. Scratch a little bit up. Feels much the same as the one in the stick once it comes out though. The second one we poured into a pot still has a very firm surface. I think this one does feel creamier than the first two. That extended stirring showing some results. And then the third one I poured. This one definitely suffered in the aesthetics category. Not as hard as the first two in the jar for sure. And I'd say it definitely feels creamier than the other ones as well, which is just so neat. But on the whole, I quite like this lip balm. It's creamy, it's got some nice substantialness to it. It's not sticky or really oily feeling. I'm a fan. Well done, Georgiana. I think this lip balm absolutely stands up to today's lip balms. But as lovely as it is, I'm betting you probably don't have a good spermaceti alternative kicking around your house. So if you would like to make your own lip balm with some easier to get ingredients, check out this video next to learn how to make your very own Burt's Bees dupe lip balm for a fraction of the cost. Okay, Siri, take me back to 2025. Siri? Hello?